Ranj, how are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I guess to start, could you please provide just a brief description about Seva Mining?
Yeah, look, it's a brand new company that Canadians are going to see on the market later in March. It's backed by a lot of great Canadians that have come together to focus on our Cameron project in northwestern Ontario. But really, it's been supported and brought to life by the Fiori Group. Anybody in the mining sector that watches what's happened over the last number of years or even decades understands who the Fiore Group are, led by Frank Giustra and an incredible team of individuals. So we're kicking off with a talented group of individuals that I have am blessed to get to work with, and I think the markets and the sector are going to hear a lot about Seva in the coming months.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So before we get into the Fiore Group, which I definitely want to ask you questions about, let's talk about a bit of your past career. So you recently served as the Premier of Yukon, overseeing an entire territory's economy. You could have joined a number of boards in Canada after your time as Premier. Why join Seva in the Cameron project? What did you see that convinced you that this really could be a huge success?
Yeah, well, first, the concept for the company Seva, the name comes from one of our partners here, Sean Kunkun, and it's really what it stands for is selfless service. And it was a commitment of building a strong mining company that really was prepared to not just serve the shareholders, but to also serve the communities that we're working within. I've spent about a decade around territorial, provincial politics, serving, in a number of roles and ministries around mining, around the economy, and in the leadership role as Premier. Have had an opportunity to watch the sector, things that are done extremely well, things that I think could be improved on. So taking the opportunity of building economic growth in an area, but understanding the priorities of the communities that you're working within, and then partnering with them, not just to make it a success for shareholders, but to help those communities succeed in their goals and vision, was something that really drew me to this. Look, I also know that Canada's in a position right now where we need to see Canadians in all sectors step up to build our economy. When it comes to mining, Canadians know this sector. We have an incredible opportunity across the country from coast to coast to coast in the mining sector. And I want to play a role in that. I want to work with great people to move projects forward, to create opportunities and wealth for our country, but also to ensure that communities that may have felt left behind are partnering on these projects so they can meet the goals that they have in mind for themselves and their citizens.
Mm-hmm. And you also were a former Minister of Energy and Mines. Mm-hmm. You were responsible for the department's oversee of regulations. How does being on the other side of the table give Seva a competitive advantage in navigating the regulatory landscape of Ontario?
Well, we're coming with a unique perspective. The people that I'm going to have a chance to work with are incredible in what they do, whether it's our lead on engineering, Ryan Brown, or sustainability and communities lead, Helton Fan, or Carligan, who's from Kenora and, has worked in the area, comes from a multi-generational family of explorers. But I'm coming to the table with a view where I've been on the government side, yes, on the regulatory side, and understand the challenge and, the weight of that work for government officials. And also, how you should engage, making sure that you figure out what governments are looking for in their applications and permitting, how to handle and build strong relationships with the people that are in those departments that have a lot on their plate, but to ensure that you're prepared when you're going through application processes and you're out doing the proper consultation that you need to do. But also, I've been blessed to be in a position to work with large First Nation governments, and in that role have been taught a lot about what those communities are looking for and how they want to see companies engage with them. And previous to being in politics, had an opportunity to work with a small junior in the Yukon. We're successful in a nice exit. We worked hand in hand with a First Nation government there in that region and built a really strong, positive relationship. So, I try to take all of the things that I've had an opportunity to learn over the last, 20 years and then put it to work on this project that we're looking at now.
Mm-hmm. And what specifically do you work with the First Nations or Indigenous tribes to partner with them? What specific actions do you take to ensure that they're happy, that the company's successful, and everyone is
I think the first thing that a company has to focus on is to be there in the community and understand what the priorities of those communities are. So, we've seen companies across Canada do a great job of providing employment opportunities to make sure that there's partnership on joint ventures with First Nation development corporations or with entrepreneurs that are First Nation in those communities to create wealth and opportunities. Training, there's, the sector is the largest employer of Indigenous people in the country. But we're also taking a different approach, or adding on to that, I should say. We want to be able to look at the communities, understand what their other priorities are. And in many cases, we have communities across the country that want to focus on enhancing the health of their citizens, making sure that the right supports are there so that the people in the community have an opportunity to thrive in employment. But at that foundational point, what can we do as a company to use the talent of our executive team, our knowledge from our previous work, to be able to support them in that endeavor? And so, we're Seva, again, selfless service, going into the communities that we want to be doing a project in, and understanding at a very grassroots level what are the things that the community wants to achieve and how can we help, whether it's through partnering with them in their relationships with other levels of government, or it is our ability to use our financial resources in particular cases to help them achieve the things they want to, whether it's infrastructure, support, the things that are important to those communities.
And you mentioned the Fiori Group earlier. So Seva and yourself are obviously partnered with the Fiori Group, and this group is known for massive wins like Goldcorp and Endeavour Mining, obviously founded by Frank Giustra. How does your political and operational background mesh with their capital markets engine?
First of all, it's an incredible group of people. There's a lot of talent, a lot of experience in every element of what it takes to build a good company. Of course, there's the capital markets piece, but from a technical standpoint, whether it's the geologists, it's the corporate secretary team, it's the legal minds that work around the office, it's the geologists. I mean, there's everybody kind of comes together in this shop. I from my work in other areas of the economy in the country, it's almost like there's an accelerator inside the Fiori Group where you can lean on so many different people to find the answers you may need, or to get the support or the education or the help that's required to continue to build a very strong team and company. So I'm just trying to bring some of the things that I've learned along the way, but really it's about being supported by a group of incredibly talented, experienced people that can help fill in the gaps that I may have, or members of our team have, and helping us find the right people when we need them to have a full complement in place to succeed in a project like this.
And I also think it's about the reputation too. Fiori Group, everyone knows them as the people that build successful mines, that have these exits, that consistently win across their sector. You look at their last few companies, Dolly Varden Silver, Next Gold, since their initial market cap, they've done incredibly well. So moving on to that, people like the Fiori Group, like I kind of just said, the Midas touch with exits. How does it feel to be the one driving the bus for Seva, for a team that has historically had so many wins?
Yeah. Well, luckily, as you just pointed out, there's a lot of buses that are part of the Fiori Group. I get to drive one of them, and it feels great. I mean, I'm excited. I've enjoyed every moment since I've had an opportunity to be part of this team. I was trying to make a decision coming out of the political world of where I was going to, what sector I was going to go back to. My grandfather was a miner. My uncles were all miners. It's the third generation in our family in this country of people that are in the sector. So this gave me an opportunity to be able to work back in the mining sector, and you couldn't be with a better team. But I think, there's pressure that comes. There's good positive pressure inside of the Fiori Group. There's so many people doing well with the projects they've taken on, the companies they've built. It builds a culture where folks want to succeed and they want to work incredibly hard, not just for their shareholders but for their colleagues around them, because there's a benchmark that people want to achieve when they're here, and they want to hit that, and they want to surpass it. So I just feel lucky to be able to have an opportunity to work with all the folks here.
Great. And now moving on to a bit of the Cameron project. So the Cameron project is located in Northwest Ontario, an area that has seen over $9.5 billion in MMA since 2020, including Core's $7 billion acquisition of New Gold's Rainy River mine.
Yeah.
How does being in such an active mining environment change things for Seva?
Well, it's an advantage. First, I mean, it's an area that has been, prolific in the country when it's come to mining success. That whole region. So when you bring your project to market, first of all, people are aware of all the success that's happened in the region. I've had lots of family members over the years that have worked in that region. There's been such a great history within northwestern Ontario. But look, I think it gives some context to what is achievable. And we're not in a position where it's a region where we have to educate the market, the shareholders, about what the opportunity can be in that area. So it's a great advantage jumping into this project. And I think, as you've said, there's a significant acquisition that just occurred just south of us, about 80 kilometers south of us. Part of that acquisition included Rainy River. So many that are watching what's happening in the sector understand, the vicinity that we're working in.
And it's also just an infrastructure ready place as well. There's so many big projects around.
Yeah. I mean, I just spent last week in Kenora, so I was there all week. So we were in Kenora, but we were down at the Cameron, by the Cameron project, meeting with community leaders that are all in that traditional territory. And yeah, I mean, you're dealing with such a significant level of infrastructure, whether it's the highway that goes from Kenora right to Fort Francis, which we're just located 20 clicks off of that with a road right into our project. Transmission that runs parallel to that highway, that's only about 20 kilometers away from, what potentially could be a project site for us. So Kenora is a great town. There's great municipalities all in that area. Similar to my experience in the Yukon, in that, it's a region that has had its own gold rush, just like the Yukon had a gold rush. And since that time, there has been mining. So the community understands the sector. They know what the advantages are when you have a good operator and a good project come along. So, I'm excited to be spending lots of time in northwestern Ontario and getting to know people in the communities and building trust and partnerships along the way.
And I'd also like to note, Seva, the Cameron project, is 53,000 hectares of land too, in an area that is so prolific for MMA. What does that mean for investors? What can they get excited about? Do you plan to do anything with that land?
Yeah, I want investors to be aware of the approach we have, which is, first and foremost, it's respect for the communities that we're working within and want to work within. We're going to take a very disciplined approach to moving at a pace that is supported by the communities in the area. We want to understand, like I had mentioned earlier, what the priorities of those communities are, that we have an ability to help them achieve those goals, and that we're building value for shareholders and for the community at the same time. But we wouldn't have taken this on if we didn't see some real blue sky. And we've got a significant amount of gold that's either measured or inferred there right now. We think with a partnership with communities in the area that we could have a very simplistic project. Some may say there's no such thing, but our technical team thinks there is. And we could be in a position where we have a small footprint around Cameron. We have an ability to go and look around that area. We think there's some other pretty exciting things that are very close to where some of the historical work's been done. And we have, the ability to either go south of Cameron or north to other existing projects and partner with them to actually process. So, we're not looking at big CapEx. We're looking at something that could have a, hopefully a significant mine life, but that's early stage. This is our first glimpse at it. There's things we're going to have to do. We want to get it an opportunity to get on the ground. We want to be able to do some more exploration. We want to be able to get in there and do some infill drilling in the future. And then, we may look at a PEA quicker than others would, but we think there's something that's pretty interesting there. Not flashy, but something that will return value for the shareholders that trust in us, and something that will provide value and opportunities to the communities that we want to partner with.
And that moves on to my next question. You mentioned PEA. So as we know, this asset was previously held by First Mining, a company that did a lot of the baseline heavy lifting. How much of that historical data can you, bank on or accelerate your path to a PEA or a feasibility study in 2026?
Yeah, look, we're in very good shape when it comes to the data that's been collected over the last number of years. There's been a tremendous amount of money spent on this project, and incredible amount of drilling, a lot of work that's there. There's some existing infrastructure that's on site, which is great. So it's going to make things easier for us, and it's going to reduce some of our early cost. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I would say that we're going to have time over the spring of 2026 and the summer of 2026 to go back and review the data that's been collected. We've got to push and pull because we've got a great team that's leading on our exploring, a great team that is in place if we want to look at development. When it comes to making a decision on a PEA, like I shared, that might be something that we get to sooner than other companies would, because I think the belief is that we have something that we could move and work and develop pretty quickly. Again, but that being said, it's really going to be about building proper relationships and understanding that the communities around us and on land that we're working are comfortable with the tempo that we're choosing to go at. There's a trust and understanding that we're going to respect the environment we're working in, that the technology and innovation that we want to deploy is something that's going to be in line with the thinking of the community. It was in my initial meetings, it was made very clear to me by the Indigenous leaders in that area that this is an incredible, special place for them. We have to be moving where we're respecting land and water and the environment that we want to work within. Our team understands that, and our team has a long history of doing good projects around the country and globally. And with that, we think we can meet the goals of the communities. We think there's a project that could really have an incredible return. But again, I ask anybody who's watching to just keep an eye on what we're doing. We're going to be very methodical in how we continue to progress this. I believe that the people that have come around the table to be part of this project wouldn't do that if they didn't feel there was some incredible blue sky that we're moving towards.
And one of the things that's interesting about this project is that you guys are sitting on nearly 14,000 tons of high-grade material, sitting in stockpiles from the 1980s. Is there a plan to process this early to provide some initial proof of concept or non-dilutive cash for the company?
Yeah, we will be having discussions on what a partnership would look like with the communities that are in the region. There was previously some discussions before we took on the project about what could be done with that stockpile. We've got, again, there's an opportunity south, there's an opportunity north of Cameron where we could look at a proof of concept. I mean, the grade is incredibly high on the stockpile. We would like to come up with a plan where we partner with the Indigenous communities in the area. We have an opportunity to process that stockpile, and it gives everybody a sense of what a potential future operation would look like. From a standpoint of the basic logistics of moving the ore from site and then trucking it to another location, making sure that we understand what that looks like and what potential impacts we could mitigate with moving that stockpile over the first number of months. But there's great upside on that. We're going to be able to come and see some significant value out of the gates. It's going to be money that we can use to further deepen our partnerships. We can invest into the project, and it'll give us a really good sense of how successful it would be to be able to move from the Cameron project and then either going south to one of the operations there or going north where we've already had interest in. One of the companies north of us wants to sit down right away and have a discussion about potentially moving stockpile in that direction.
So you said you want to be very strategic about your approach with this company.
Yeah.
If you look ahead of the next 3, 6, a year from now, what do you guys want to have accomplished? What would make you proud of where the Seva team is right now?
First, it's building trusting relationships with the communities around the Cameron project, moving those partnerships or moving those relationships into partnership, getting to a place where we have agreements signed with the communities that outline the fact that we understand what they want to see and they understand how we'd like to proceed. That's going to be key. Getting an opportunity to go and start to prove out our thesis when it comes to the property. So getting an opportunity to do some exploration and drilling over the next year. I think that's 2026 for us. We're in a good position that we have a good treasury. We're funded with hard dollars when it comes to the drilling we want to do. But, we also understand that the current market is strong. We've already had a lot of excitement around this project. Within the Fiori Group, we had, there was immense interest in the early stage of investing into this. So, we'll take a look if things are progressing properly from our perspective. Then we'll go back and see if it's not time to bring more dollars in, build even a stronger treasury, put ourselves in a good position for a multi-phase drill program over the next, not just this year, but the following year. And, we may have a look at trying to begin a PEA or over the end of next year. And if we do, or end of this year, I should say 26, and, we'll be looking to make sure we have the resources in place to start that work. So that, I think, from the standpoint of the relationships, the exploration, and working with the markets to understand what we're trying to accomplish and to see that reflected in interest of shareholders, those are going to be the things that we see as success over the next year.
And can you talk to me a little bit about the drill program that you have planned for 2026? How many meters? What are you guys looking at?
Yeah, look, we're we're going to sit with the community over the next couple of months. So it's still early. I mean, we're in a position where we're funded for 10,000 meters of drilling. We've got some areas that we think would be optimal for us in 2026. Some of that would be infill. Some of it's some greenfield that we want to take a look at. But before we even put our application in this spring to the ministry, it's spending time with the leaders in the community and understanding, where there's sensitivity and where there's more comfort in the work that we want to do.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have Carl Ginn as the VP of Exploration.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you selected him for this role and what experience he brings and why you really think he can drive the success of the exploration program?
First off, this is Carl's backyard. I mean, Carl's lives in Kenora. The project's just down the road from where Carl grew up. But it's more than that. Sean Kunkun from the Fiori Group, who's really well known across the sector, has been incredibly successful in the work he's done. Has really supported Seva Mining, and his first boss, he'll tell you, was Dale Ginn, who's Carl's dad. Mm-hmm. So Dale's part of our team. There's a history between Sean and Dale that goes back decades, and Carl has had a really successful career in his own right, working for majors in the sector. So having both of the Ginns that are from Kenora, that know the region, come to meet with the Fiori Group, having the experience of the first mining team who have been working in the area for a long, long time, to help populate an incredibly strong board and a great group of folks to take on a project like this is pretty special. So, Carl is getting to work at home on this project, and we're just excited that he's going to have an opportunity to work on something that I think he's wanted to work on for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. Seva Mining has 1.25 million of total ounces in the ground. You're valued at roughly $22 per ounce in the ground. Peers in the same jurisdiction are trading at $60, $80, or even $100 per ounce in the ground. What do you think closes that gap for Seva Mining?
I think people that are keen to watch this story are going to keep an eye on how we partner with the communities around us and how they support us in the endeavor, in our endeavors, coming back and providing the results that we think we can with exploration is going to, again, continue to enhance the story. And then I think our technical team, when it's the right time, is going to present the market with a very strong plan that shows that we can take what we believe is a interesting project to something that can really produce significant value. Mm-hmm. This is our thesis as we go into the project. But I think as people start to watch us succeed on each one of those pillars, you're going to see the value start to match what we're seeing with our peers. Mm-hmm. And we're just excited to start that work, getting to know the communities, getting to work alongside them, getting a chance to prove out what we believe is something that the market's really going to support, is something that is getting us all up in the morning. And we're waiting for snow to melt and an opportunity to get out there and really prove what we believe is an incredible story for the market.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Sean Kunkun earlier, obviously the CEO of Dolly Varden Silver. They've been a massive success story in the last year, merging with Contango recently. What has he taught you, and what has he shown you about the success of Dolly Varden that you want to bring to Seva? Do you follow in his footsteps a little bit in that sense?
Yeah, he's a great leader that surrounds himself with incredibly talented people, and he gives them the space and room to do what they do best, and is very supportive. Look, he's got a number of talents that I wish I had. I don't, but he, when it comes to his ability to work with the markets, but I'm going to try to bring another set of skills that I think that are a bit different than some of the other team members that can still give us an advantage. But I think just watching how he's built his teams and trying to, he's helped me surround myself with people that are best in class in what they do. I'm just trying to make sure I support them. I'm being very open as a new and fresh CEO about what I know and what I don't know. And I have the opportunity because I'm lucky enough at Fiore to be on the other side of the wall from Sean Kun, as well as just down the hallway from Rob McLeod and just around the corner from Ryan Waymark. So, and then, if there's something about our structure I need, Gord Keeps here too. So there's a lot of superstars in the industry that are all just a minute's walk away.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ranj, for joining us today.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing what happens with Seva. I think it'll be an exciting story.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Again, to folks that are interested, please check out our web presence. There's lots of information there. Reach out to us if you want to get more information about Seva. But we're excited about taking a different approach to the sector and really making sure that we both serve the communities we're working with and the shareholders that trust in us. Thanks.
Great.